The founder of Adventures with Purpose was just charged with 2 counts of child R. This is a timeline of everything we know. At first, Jared Lasik founded AWP as an environmental cleanup project. He made videos pulling cars out of water and other kinds of trash and debris. But one day he found human remains inside a vehicle, and that video blew up. And that's when he knew he could help people find their missing loved ones who had gone missing in their cars. Most recently, AWP found the body and car of 16-year-old Kylie Rodney, which was incredible because law enforcement couldn't find her for weeks. Since 2019, they've actually solved 23 missing person cases, and they've amassed millions of followers. A couple months ago, though, Jared started showing his face less and less in these videos, but no one knew why. Well, now we know. On November 3rd, Jared Lasik was charged with 2 felony counts of child rape. These documents allege that when he was 17 years old in 1992, he raped a cousin in Utah, and this child was just 10 or 11 years old. Jared's first court date is November 30th. If you want to see the emails where he basically admits to all of this, go to part 2. I'm about to show y'all email exchanges between Jared Lasik, the founder of AWP, and his cousin, who is the victim. So the cousin sent him this email where she calls him a child molesting monster and says there is no forgiveness. She says her family knew, his family knew, but they didn't turn him in. All these people may be calling you a hero and saying that you're doing such great things, but we know the truth about you and you're obviously not ashamed of your past. Your secrets are not hidden. And Jared Lasik wrote back, allegedly, and basically admitting to everything. I'm so very sorry for the things that we cannot change. Like yourself, I was once a victim by multiple people, both in and out of the family. It is unfortunate when families like ours experience molestation. And Jared basically says this is happening all over the family. Incest. He says his whole family knows about this situation. He says, do we pinpoint it to our family lineage or do we pinpoint it to Mormonism? There is no way for me to understand the hatred and resentment that you must have for me for over 3 decades later. And yes, this rape occurred 3 decades ago, allegedly. And the cousin, the victim, wrote back, if you truly want to apologize, then pay for your actions, walk into a police station with me and confess. And Jared wrote, unfortunately, your desire to have a 46-year-old male live in the mistakes of a 12-year-old simply is not realistic. But Jared was not 12 when this all went down, he was 17. And he's telling her, spread awareness and stop the cycle as we cousins within the family have for our own children and grandchildren. The cycle of molestation and incest, apparently. And again, Jared is admitting that he has already apologized to her for this, so he's basically admitting to this. And the cousin responds and calls him out and says, you were not 12, you were 17. And the cousin was a child, a very young child. And in the end she says, but I do appreciate you admitting all of it in writing. And Jared responds, you are welcome, I hope it helps in your healing process, and signs Jared. Again, those emails were in February and he was charged with 2 felony counts of child rape a few days ago, November 3rd. And if you don't believe that those emails are real, watch this video.
Somebody also said, well, these emails could be fabricated. You know, somebody could have wrote these. Jared couldn't have, he didn't write these, stuff like that. But Jared has already said that his official statement is the emails back and forth between him and his cousin. Sent him a text. I was like, hey, I heard what's going on, dude. I got your back if you need anything. That was me, my first reaction, because I thought maybe I had a friend getting railroaded. But that's me jumping the gun too fast before I knew what the hell was going on. And that was dumb on my part. But he did write back, very generic message saying, my official statement is what I wrote back and forth to my cousin. That's public on Reddit.
What up though, it's your girl and we are back. It's Killer Cases with the Crystal Pusher. And today we have a little bit of a different story. This time it is very personal and I really need your help. This is Zion Foster. She is the oldest of 6 siblings whom she closely took care of, and she is quirky, funny, energetic, and just a great joy to be around. She was very close with her Aunt Kayla and would do whatever she could to help those around her, and she was just very close to her family. She was only a senior in high school when she went missing, and she was very excited to embark into adulthood, but unfortunately, that opportunity was taken from her. On the night of January 3rd, 2022, 17-year-old Zion asked her mother, Sierra Milton, if she would be able to go and hang out with her cousin, 23-year-old Jalen Brazier. Her mother allowed her to because Jalen was considered family, he was Zion's cousin by marriage, and she had no reason to think that Zion would be in any danger. Her only request was that Zion share her location while she was with him, and it showed that Zion was at his home on Detroit's west side near Greenfield and Vassar. Jalen picks Zion up around sometime after 10:30 that night, but that was the last time anyone had seen her. Sierra realized that Zion had not come home, and when questioning Jalen about her whereabouts, he said that he hadn't seen her in weeks. That story went from he hadn't seen her in weeks, he hadn't seen her in months, to he hadn't seen her in years. That struck Sierra to be odd because she knew that Jalen was the last person that her daughter was with because she had her location. And on January 4th, which was the following day, police and the rest of Zion's family are notified, and they begin to make efforts to look for her, not the police. When police were notified of the missing child, they advised the family that a detective would not be assigned to the case for at least 72 hours, and they did nothing in the meantime. Days passed and there's still no signs of Zion, and it wasn't even until January 10th, 6 days after she had gone missing, that the police decided to file an official missing persons report for her. So Zion's Aunt Kayla decided to make a Facebook page exposing Jalen and his social media accounts, condemning both East Point and Detroit police departments for not doing anything to help find her niece and just trying to get her niece's story out there. It wasn't until Kayla vilified both police departments that they finally decided that they were going to look for Jalen to bring him in for questioning. And mind you, she had already been missing for 2 weeks. Her family still makes efforts to search for Zion, and they're looking in the area of where she was last seen, just hoping that they can find some type of clue. And I'm running out of time, so please watch part 2. That rhymed. Part 2. So her family is continuing their own search, and they even search inside of the home that she was last seen to find that the house is completely empty. And it was verified that Zion was inside of that home last night from phone records because she accidentally took a photo while inside of the house, and you could evidently see it was the same environment. And through Ring camera technology, there is video footage of Jalen picking up Zion from her home in East Point, and also video footage from his block showing that they both had arrived at his home. Zion's family also provide police with phone records and photo evidence that shows she was definitely with Jalen last, but yet they still fail to do anything with this information. The family also hired a local PI who was the one to discover that Jalen had driven his car out far to Waterford early morning of January 4th, which is a city, a semi-rural town about 40 miles north of Detroit. But, of course, police do nothing with that either. Jalen finally decides to cooperate with police and goes in for questioning, but he tells them that he did indeed pick up Zion and they were going back to his home to, And he tells police after indulging that at some point she felt unconscious and he believed that she had passed away. And he panicked. He says that she was not breathing, so he decided to pick her up, take her body and put it into the trunk of his car, and he drove out somewhere and put her body into a dumpster. And on January 24th, 2022, he was officially charged with 2 counts of lying to the police in East Point, and he was sentenced to 2 to 4 years for that. And obviously that provides zero solace for Zion's family. They don't know where she is, they have no idea if she even is alive or not, and they just have no idea what happened. The story provided makes zero sense, and the police are putting in no effort to help find her. No search parties were ever conducted by police. They never searched the area of where she was last seen. They didn't even search the home themselves. Her family did all of that. And on May 31st, 2022, over 5 months after Zion originally went missing, police finally decide that they're going to conduct a search for her in a local landfill. But that goes on for months and they find nothing, which shows that Jalen lied about where he dumped her. The search was concluded October 12th, 2022, and nothing has been done by police since. Jalen is currently serving his sentence, but could be released as soon as December of next year. Zion's Aunt Kayla is one of my best friends, so please help us find out what happened to her. Please harass the Detroit Homicide Unit so that they can push and find justice for Zion. She was just a kid and her family deserves to know what happened to their little ball of light. Thanks for tuning in.
So this is Jodi Arias. By this picture, she just looks like a beautiful young woman, but you guys will never believe the crime that she committed. This is an older case, so I know most of you true crimers know who this is, but for those of you who don't, you might want to watch this. There are some details that are a little bit disturbing, so if you guys are squeamish, you might want to scroll. Jodi was born July 9, 1980. By all accounts, she's had a seemingly normal childhood. She did drop out of high school her junior year, but she did go on to get her GED and she went into sales. She excelled at this job, and by all accounts, it seemed like Jodi was doing good at this point in her life. In September of 2006, she met Travis Alexander at a convention for sales in Las Vegas. They instantly hit it off, and Travis grew very fond of Jodi. Shortly after, in February of 2007, Jodi and Travis began dating. In the beginning, everything seemed very kosher, but then Travis started to notice things about Jodi. Travis was part of the Mormon church, and he was very strict in his beliefs, and Jodi just didn't quite fit into them. They were having premarital sex, and so this started to really bother Travis. Their relationship became very off and on, and they were also in a long-distance relationship, so it was just very difficult to maintain this relationship. Even some of Travis's friends started to notice how controlling Jodi was and how obsessed she was with him, and this just didn't sit right with them. Jodi started eavesdropping on his conversations, going through his emails, his social media accounts, and would even pop up at his house. So in May of 2008, Travis officially broke it off with Jodi. They seemingly got into a huge fight, and Travis even mentioned something along the lines of, "Don't be surprised if I end up dead." This breakup really set Jodi off. She began stalking Travis and even sneaking into his house. So a month later, Travis was supposed to go on a trip to Cancun with his friends, but his friends hadn't heard from him in 5 days, so they started getting really worried about him, and so they went to his home. What they discovered in his home was truly shocking. They found Travis in the shower covered in blood. They immediately called police and they began to investigate. Investigators found long brown hairs, a digital camera in the washing machine, and a bloody handprint on the wall. Travis' friends immediately told police to look into Jodi. Investigators brought Jodi in for questioning, and of course she denied any involvement in this case. She said that she hadn't seen Travis in over 2 months. But then investigators started going through the digital camera that they found. The photos in this camera were shocking. They found the first photo, which was Jodi and Travis in the bed. Then the next photos, Travis was in the shower. And then the next photos were seemingly after Travis was murdered. The investigators confronted Jodi with these photos, and then she finally admitted, "Okay, we were together on June 4th, but I did not kill him." Then she proceeded to tell a story that just didn't even make sense. Go to part 2. Part 2 on Jodi Arias. So she starts telling this story that doesn't even make sense. She tells investigators that she did go to Travis's house on June 4th and that they had sex. After they had sex, Travis got into the shower. She said while he was in the shower, she was taking pictures of him. She said next thing she knew, 2 intruders came into the house and unalived Travis. She said that they told Jodi that if she told anyone that they would unalive her family. Investigators just were not buying it. This is one of the last photos that Jodi took of Travis while he was alive. Look at the fear in his eyes. This is such a chilling and creepy ass photo. Like, why did you take pictures of him while you were killing him? I don't understand. According to Travis's autopsy, he was stabbed 27 times, he was shot in the head, and then his throat was slit. I mean, she's psycho. Of course, detectives did not buy any of her story. They automatically arrested her for first-degree murder and tried her on first-degree murder. She ultimately was convicted on first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. This just goes to show you can't always trust a beautiful face.